Hi, this is Terry Bach, your host of your Rewrite Your Money Story series. Welcome back. So I have noticed that many entrepreneurs are very busy. They're always working, they're working long hours, and yet when I talk to many of them, I find out that in spite of all that work, they're still not getting the financial results that they're looking for, or the time freedom that they're looking for as well. So I have put together a series of experts to get their perspectives on how to help with this issue. So I'm excited today to talk with LoriAnne Reeves because business owners and businesses hire LoriAnne to work with them to connect, to capture, and to close business. LoriAnne's experience in corporate sales and psychology help businesses close sales quickly. She provides strategy, psychological work, and transformational change. Can't wait to hear that. Clients work with LoriAnne because her combination of practical strategy and years of working with psychological dynamics get quick results in growing their businesses. So LoriAnne speaks on sales and sales psychology, money dynamics, and systemic organization team building. She writes the blog Coffee Shop Lessons, which I've read, by the way, and it is very good.
Thank you.
Enjoy that. So welcome, LoriAnne.
Thank you, Terry. I'm so happy to be here to talk about my favorite subject.
Which is?
Which is money. Which is money.
I love talking money too.
Yes.
We might be the only two people in the world who enjoy talking about money.
And you know what? You're absolutely right, Terry, because it is the number one problem, whether it's a corporate client or an individual business owner, entrepreneur, that they avoid it. They avoid it, and yet that's the reason they're in business. And of course, to serve at the highest level, but you open a business to make money.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're just spending a lot of money on nothing.
Right.
An expensive hobby, as they say.
Very expensive.
Yes. So tell me and tell our listeners how you ended up getting in this career, in this working with money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I just spoke last week and I told this story for the first time. So I'm going to share it here because it's really the start of my career. My grandfather and his siblings had a laundry business when I was a child. And when I was 2, he started taking me on the delivery truck, and he would have my grandmother dress me up really cute. When we get to the person, he'd give me the ticket. I had my little purse, and he'd say, go ahead and go ask for the money. And he would come behind me delivering. And so from an early age, I actually have learned how to ask for money. And so, and kudos to him to use me back then.
No kidding. Do you think it was because he was afraid to?
No, I don't think he was because afraid to. They were very successful entrepreneurs. I think it was his way of teaching me.
Nice.
Out of all my parents, aunts and uncles, and my siblings and cousins, I am the only entrepreneur. So he must have picked up energetically that I was like him. And
exactly.
So that is really my start. And from there, right out of college, I actually got a technical degree, and I had a manufacturing experience. And then I did 8 years of corporate sales. And it was a great job. I loved it. I traveled. I didn't have any children then, so it was really exciting for me. I hadn't gone too many places till then. And it was easy. And I didn't know it was easy for me. And in the first year, I brought in $5 million, and I won Salesperson of the Year. And I was shocked because I thought everyone should ask for money because Grandpa taught me.
Exactly. What a great learning experience.
Oh my goodness. And so, and I think that's why I love the job so much. But after 8 years, I was going through a lot of infertility problems. I was traveling way too much. I really wanted a child. And in the same year that I decided that I wanted a career change, and someone just put a bug in my ear and said, you'd make a good therapist. And I said, really? And I didn't have like the background for it. So I applied, I got in, I got pregnant, and I delivered my son while I was going to school.
Oh
So
my
I think it was the
God.
right choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so all those
Perfect.
psychological dynamics in my private practice showed up even there. You know, people would tell me about their abuse, who's cheating on whose kids are rotten, you know, all that. But
Mm,
ask them about money, silence. And it was always the one thing that people
mhm.
didn't want to talk about. And it was one thing
Exactly.
in my family that I had learned at an early age. And so when I was looking for a career change, after 17 years, I sold my private practice and I got into this world.
Mhm.
And money turned out, and sales turned out to be a natural fit for me. And that's kind of
Wonderful.
the journey how I got here, and how
Yeah.
now I speak about these topics, and my one-on-one clients come to me because they're not making enough money in their business, and I help them from a strategic standpoint and a psychological standpoint, because we've done a terrible job, as you know, Terry, of how to
Yes.
not only handle money, think about money, and how we've operated with all these unconscious money stories that happen in our culture, in our
Right.
families, and how we
Yes.
take them on and don't even know it.
And we learn to not talk about money. When I was
Absolutely.
a therapist too,
Yeah.
I really got that people would much rather talk about sex than they
Yes.
would about money. I mean,
And
something that you
politics.
think is
Anything.
anything but money. Yes.
Anything. I
Yes.
totally agree. And it really hurts the entrepreneur. It
Yeah.
really does, because you go into business. I know they love what they do and their passion, and I am the same way. But I still have to pay my mortgage, my car note, my invest in myself, invest in my business. And so you have to bring
Right.
money. And what I found, especially talking to women's associations and groups across the country the last 2 years, is that most women are making under $50,000, and that's basically $1 an hour for their time after
Right.
expenses and taxes.
Exactly.
And it
Yeah.
shouldn't have to be that way. We've
No.
made it complicated, and it's really simple. No
Yeah.
sales, no money, no business.
Yeah. And no sales if you can't ask for money either.
Right. So the
Yeah.
psychological work is about 65% of the work I do, then the strategy, and then the transformation happens.
Okay. So how do you think that the money stories actually get started?
Well, you know, as a family therapist and as a systemic thinker, and doing some corporate work, I know it all starts in the family. It really does. Some people will say no, but I've done enough research. I've got enough certifications. I've 18 years in that other business that everything starts with the family.
Right.
And I have a great example of a client I have that is getting ready in the next few years to sell her business. She's about at 350,000. She wants to get over close to 1 million as possible, and couldn't ask for money. It was a slow growth. It took her 20 years to get to
Wow.
350. That's a long time. And so we went back to her family, and it really wasn't her mom and dad. It was a decision she made based on mom and dad's upbringing in her first marriage that set the tone for her being so afraid. I mean, she would break out in the sweat to ask for business.
Oh,
And so that's where it starts. It may be a good upbringing, but it's a decision in the family that leads you to make a different decision someplace else, or it's
right.
unconscious money stories in the family that you take with you.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that your parents were bad parents. It just means that
No,
they weren't
no.
able to talk about money, probably because their parents didn't talk about it either. Or,
You
yeah,
know, my mom used to say, "Oh, did you see our neighbor, Mr. So-and-so? He just bought a car. He must have money." Just that sentence
I
in that
know.
tone meant
Yes.
we don't, they do. You know, and so it doesn't even have to be arguing. You
No,
end up carrying it.
you do. You do. I totally agree. So how do you think people know if they have money stories?
I think most of them don't. Or
Yeah,
I'm just
true.
going to be blind. No, most of
Yeah.
them don't, or most of them think it doesn't matter, or most of them just, we're so addicted to strategy. It's very important. Don't get me wrong. If you
Right.
own a business, you need strategy. And that's a whole like workshop for me to talk about, but you do need strategy. But if it's not working, all you have to do is Google strategy or study with someone for a year, we're addicted to it in the entrepreneurial space.
Right.
We're not looking. I know most people call it mindset, but you and I come from the psychology world. To
Yeah.
me, it's really the psychology, and it encompasses everything, not
Yeah.
just your mindset, how you take action, everything. But people pay lip service to it and say, I'll get to it. And yet it's the one thing that's biting them in the butt.
Well, and like you were talking about with your
Mm-hmm.
client who was making 350,000,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it so much harder to get to success when
Oh,
you have all
absolutely.
this money story going
Yes,
on in the background. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. So how do you see, you answered this a little bit, but how do you see these money stories really playing out in somebody's business?
Well, I see it really in the sales process, mostly. Most people, what they're doing, they're building businesses. They're on social media. They say they have a marketing plan. And I'll say, so when do you ask for business? And there's dead silence. Just like when I was a therapist, when you ask about money, it's dead silence. It repeats here in this space also. Well, and they'll say, well, I do relationship marketing. I hear that a lot from women, especially. Men actually say it a little different. My male clients actually handle this differently, but the outcome is the same. They're not making money. Is that they think we'll build it. I have a marketing plan. It's really the sales piece, and I don't have to ask for money. And I just want to serve people. And if I do my best, then they'll just flock to me. No, it doesn't happen that way. Or else if it did, you'd be a millionaire already.
Right.
And because I assume people that have put the time in are really an expert in their field. I do come across people that are not, and then I have to help them build up their expertise. But most people come with some really decent skills.
Right. LoriAnne? Oh. And
Okay.
we're back. And sorry for that little interruption, but we're back with part 2. And LoriAnne, I think you were talking about the sales process and where
Yes.
these stories come up.
Yes, they show up around visibility because they don't want to ask for the sale. They think they've built it all out with the strategy and they have a marketing plan. And what they don't realize is you need a business model and a marketing plan, and everything you're doing needs to have the sales strategy to support it. This is what I'm talking about. If you decide to write a book, you have to have your marketing plan for it and your sales strategy. Most people have the marketing plan, not the sales strategy. Because they find sales, when I talk about that word, they say, oh, it's so icky. It's like used car salespeople. And there's a connotation around that lots of people have. But the fact is, sales is one of 3 fundamental pieces of starting a business.
Right.
We can't get away from it. And so I refuse not to use that word. A lot of other people say client enrollment, and what we do, we give people permission to ignore sales by calling sales something else. So that's my big beef in the industry, is that we are not calling what we need fundamentally to build a business. It doesn't have to be yucky. I teach my people how to be themselves, their best version of themselves, how to authentically sit in a sales conversation. And the close is like not a big deal. It's just asking if they're ready to work with you. So
I'm sorry.
I do. Yeah, go ahead.
So can you go into just a little bit what a sales strategy is, just for anybody who may not know what that means?
Yes. So let's talk about those, since both you and I are speakers, and also let's talk about what a sales strategy looks like for speaking. How's that? A lot of people use speaking to get clients, so maybe that's good. So when you speak, whether you do a keynote or whether you do a free talk and with the ability to give a free offer and then engage with people after, it all works the same. So before you go, you need to say to yourself, what are the results I would like to get? What's my intention? I want to give great content, and that's usually where people stop. The sales strategy is, how can I engage with these folks, either through my email, have a call later, have coffee later, where you're able to talk about the results you could get for them and how that would work together, as long as they're a good fit, of course, and there's other
Right.
pieces to it. So
Sure.
it's actually getting in enough people to have a conversation after how you can work with them. And then the sales conversation goes from how you connect with them, how you capture the right information, and then how you close the business. That's why I use connect, capture, close. And
Right.
so that it's really simple. It's not that hard, but
No.
everything you do in your business, besides the marketing piece, has to have what are the results I want and what's the
Yes.
sales piece that supports the marketing piece. It's
And I
50-50.
Right. And I can see where having these money stories really gets in the way of probably each and every one of those pieces.
Each and every
Yeah.
component of it. There's the visibility piece, and when you ask people to ask for money,
Mm-hmm.
because culturally we are not good around money in terms of how to speak about it and to in
Right.
a positive way, it brings up all their own stuff. And so what happens when you're in a sales conversation, it really needs to be about the other person. But
Mm-hmm.
when someone asks you, how much do you charge? All of a sudden it becomes about you, because all of your psychological dynamics that don't support you
Yes.
start showing up. And that's why
Absolutely.
you can't close business.
Right. And the big one that I see a lot, especially with women, not as much as with men,
Right.
but is that I don't deserve. I don't deserve to make more money,
Yes.
or I don't deserve to charge this much, or whatever
Right.
that is too.
Most times when I get somebody, I say, oh, you're not charging enough. And right there, by saying that, it brings up everything I need to work on psychologically. I kind of do it on
Right.
purpose, just to see what
Exactly.
pops
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah, because you want to clear it. Yeah.
Absolutely, right away. Yeah, they don't deserve it. And when I spoke this week, one of the things that came up, and I said, a lot of women are afraid of success, and success. If you're really huge successfully, most likely you're making really good money.
Mhm.
Um, they will have to change to be that person, and then who
Right.
will they have to leave behind? Because
Exactly. Yes.
that a new version of you, even though
Yes.
that's who you're supposed to be,
Right.
not everyone may come with you. And women stop at that completely.
Yes. Yeah. Because
Very afraid, because they're so relational, which is
and
a
it's
great thing.
lose.
Yeah,
Yes, it's losing part of their identity.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that way. When
No.
someone asked me the question yesterday, I said, if you're getting ready because you want to take a big leap, then that conversation with your partner or your friends needs to start now. And
Yes.
so it doesn't happen.
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes if someone does leave you, even though you've had the conversation, then unfortunately you have to ask yourself, were they there? Were they supposed to be there in the first place? It's a hard
It
piece.
really is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It
Really
is.
hard.
Yeah. I know that you speak about money, Mike, or set points
Yes.
as
Yes.
well. So tell us what that means to you.
Oh, what that means to me, and first time I even did it on myself, I was shocked. But most people have a money set point. And what that means, unless they clear these stories and do the psychological work, they will only make the same amount of money no matter what they do, whether it's corporate
Exactly.
or entrepreneurship. Even like 20 years ago, go back 30 years and calculate what you were making, then find out how much money it is in today's dollars, and then ask yourself, how much are you making now? I bet you're within 15%. And that
Mm-hmm.
is a money set point, and it means
Right.
that's what you think you only deserve.
Okay.
And it becomes the psychological piece that needs to, again, pointing where you need work.
And how would you help somebody with that? Change their set point.
Yes. So the strategy, there's a strategy, the psychology, so you can get the transformation, the results. So the strategy piece is pretty simple. Once we figure out what the set point is,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we say we'll never go below. So if you make you've only made $100,000 every year, and you want to be at 250, because people will drop below their set point, and they go up, they drop, they go up, they drop. And that's a different dynamic,
Yes.
but we have to consider that. So we take the set point as you'll never go below, and then what's the next step? If you want to make
Okay.
250, we may say we do some exercises that energetically kind of show me where they're at in terms like, well, maybe I only want, maybe right now I can only hold 150,000 a year. A lot of people say, well, I'm making 100, I want to make $1 million. But energetically, you cannot hold that unless you're doing the work. So we'll do it in increments, and then the strategy becomes what needs to happen to never go below 100,000. What's the strategy that we need to get you to 150,000 a year? The psychology is what happens between 100,000 and 150 and what's coming up.
Right.
And then the psychological work is around that. And once we do that, we implement the action around that allows you to have the transformation and the results you're looking for.
Okay. So you're working at several levels too.
Absolutely. I don't think you can work linear with this at all.
Right.
So yes, to me, it's the 3 levels for me are, strategy, psychology, which includes also the energy piece for me, because people do have different energy set points also, what they can handle. And then what are the action steps we need to take for you to get your results, which is your transformation. And most people, when they get the money they want, they've made big leaps personally.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you believe this too. Grow yourself, grow your business. And that's what needs to happen. And that's what's occurring all at the same time.
Yeah. My tagline used to be, change your mind, change your money.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree.
It's got to be from the inside out, I think, too.
Yes, but because we're addicted to strategy and yet we acknowledge it, we don't do that work. Because we think we'll just go to the next coach, the next guru, get the next strategy. What's the new trend? Like podcasts are new trends. I think podcasts are great if it's good for your business.
Right.
But what's the strategy behind it? What's the psychology behind it? And what are the action steps to get you the results you want? And
then to clear the things that are causing resistance to getting there too.
Yeah. And so people just they avoid it, and they go in a circle. And until they're willing to do both the strategy and the psychology at the same time, they don't make huge leaps. So
I totally agree with that. So what do you think, LoriAnne, shows up in money? What fear do you think shows up in money?
We've already talked about one, about who do I have to leave behind? And we did talk about another one. They don't deserve it, right? The other thing a lot of people are afraid of is kind of the tall poppy syndrome. If I get too big, I get who I'm supposed to be. Because it's not that I want you to be someone else. I want you to step into the all of the awesomeness of who you're supposed to be and how that shows up for you in all areas of your life. But then, as we know, our culture they love success, but they also like to knock it down, because that is a mirror to other people showing that they're not doing the work. Exactly. And so they're going to go after you. So the tall poppy syndrome is, if poppies get too tall, they cut them down. And so that is, it's not something a lot of people think of consciously, but it definitely sits in men and women unconsciously all the time.
Yeah, because we don't want to become that person who other people criticize or judge.
Right. Even though you're a better person for stepping into who you're supposed to be. And it's really
a big one.
Sad, as the therapist piece of me, that's sad. As the strategist piece of me, I'm going, let me help you.
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
Because we can see it.
Right away. Yeah. I can see it in 15 minutes when I first meet somebody, usually, like the outline of it all. But yeah, we can, but they can't, and they don't want to a lot of times. That is my frustration on my end. Now, I'm not for everybody. I'll be the first one to say that, but there are a lot of people I can help, and they're afraid to step into it.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you for all your work that you do.
Thank you.
Very important work.
Yes, it is my passion for people. My community is all about yes, I want you to serve at the highest level, and I want you to make a lot of money with it.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for all of that. That was very interesting. I know that you have a gift
I do.
For our listeners, would
I
you
do.
tell us about that?
Yes, yes. It's a 15-point checklist on how to have an authentic sales conversation. That's where people really shake in terms of how to do that. So I've put together 15 points. Some of you may not use all 15 points, but I would suggest that use at least 10 of the points and you will be on your way better than 75% of the people and being able to have an authentic sales conversation and close business.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And for the listeners, there's a button below this video where you can just click on and receive LoriAnne's wonderful gift.
Good.
So thank you again, LoriAnne, for spending this time with us and sharing your expertise. I appreciate it. And for the audience, I just want to thank you again for being on the Rewrite Your Money Story series. And be sure to stay tuned in for our next expert. Talk to you soon.